Is TransferWise a good option for yourself and your business? That's what I'm going to talk about on today's video. So TransferWise, first of all, what is it? Because there's a lot of confusion about this. A lot of people, they think about TransferWise as just being a transfer company. In other words, if you want to send Japanese yen to, I don't know, British pounds in the UK or US dollars to pounds or euros, whatever, that's one function. However, what a lot of people don't understand is that TransferWise has now diversified into other service areas. So they have, for example, debit cards, which are Visa cards, which is called the borderless account. So they have regular bank accounts. In addition to that, they have something called TransferWise for Business, which is business accounts. So I'm going to talk about the positives and negatives of TransferWise and the different services on this video. So I first used TransferWise in Japan many years ago, and I have to say, compared to the regular banks, it's excellent in terms of the fees, in terms of the service, in terms of the technology. It's excellent. I would give it a strong 8 out of 10 at least. In some countries, you could even give it a 9 or 10 out of 10. However, the main negatives are, or the absolute negative, I would say, the only big negative, is that it's a bit restricted. You can't send to every country in the world. Also, there are upper limits depending on many things. Now, that depends. If you're sending from a very well-regulated or seen as like developed country to another developed country, then the regulation will be completely different depending on all those things. So sometimes those restrictions won't bother you at all. There can be some destinations where there are hardly any restrictions, but there are others where there are definitely restrictions. So that's the main negative. One of the few positives about some of the banks is that even though they're much more expensive, their processes are more annoying and so on, what is true is they're more likely to be able to send across the world. And that kind of links me to also a negative with their business accounts. So TransferWise for Business, almost everyone who has used it has told me it's much better than the traditional banks that they're used to dealing with. However, the main negative compared to the traditional banks, and indeed even those kind of challenger banks like Revolut, is that there are restrictions. For example, it only accepts if you're domiciled in certain countries. So if you're in the EU or a few other countries, you should be able to get a bank account with them. But in some countries, they won't allow you to open up bank accounts. Likewise, let's say you've got a British pound account with them, TransferWise for Business, they'll only accept if the money's coming from a company located in the UK and they're sending in British pounds. In other words, if somebody sends you British pounds from New Zealand, they're not going to accept it. If somebody sends you US dollars from the UK, they won't just transfer it to US dollars, they just won't accept the payment. And likewise, even for their US dollar bank accounts, which are much less restricted, they have a list of countries they won't accept money from. So that isn't just Iran and the new, the normal candidates that are blacklisted. They've got quite a lot of countries they will refuse to take money from. So I would say with TransferWise, they're excellent, whether that's for personal, business, or whether that's their original function, which is transferring money. The only big negative with them is that they have these restrictions. Everything else is very good. The safety, I would say, also is very good, because some people are worried, well, if I open up, I don't know, a Russian ruble account or whatever, how does that work? It is true in their terms and conditions, technically speaking, you could take a loss if something happens to the local banks they're using, but that's not really a big deal. It's no worse or no better than what most banks are actually offering in reality. So overall, I'd say it's very good. And also another thing is, a lot of things can be done instantly. So if you've got, say, a British pound, US dollar, euros account, and you want to add, I don't know, just give an example, the Russian ruble or Japanese yen, whatever, usually with just a click of the button you can add it. So it's a very good solution. It does have restrictions, and indeed those restrictions are on the upper side as well. So if you've got a business, it's going to work very well if you've got a small or medium-sized business and you're located in certain countries. But if you're, I don't know, a big online casino or something, number one, they might not accept you, but number two, There are limits, daily limits. I think it's about $1 million. That's fine for most businesses, but not for ours. So I would say they're they're more restricted than the traditional banks. But apart from that, they offer a much better service, better technology at a better cost, and they're also quick in doing things, efficient, quick, low cost. So very much a good provider, despite the restrictions.